Listen, if you've been beating yourself up because you just can't stop procrastinating on that massive project, I have a fundamental truth that is going to completely shatter your guilt. You are not broken. Seriously, if you haven't launched that business yet or you just can't seem to hold your focus, I need you to know right off the bat that it is not your fault. Here's the thing. Your inability to finish that project, it's not a moral failing. It's actually just your ancient survival software acting exactly as it was programmed to act 100,000 years ago. You see, the brain is just a biological machine. It operates on physical laws, chemical gradients, and electrical impulses. Think about it. We'd never judge someone's character if their pancreas produced too little insulin, right? Yet we constantly judge ourselves for cognitive bottlenecks that are entirely mechanical. So here is our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to literally treat your brain like a piece of machinery today. We'll start by tackling the myth of laziness, map out the corporate structure of your brain, look at the vicious cycle of procrastination, and then we'll dive into a step-by-step guide to physically clear those biological traffic jams and upgrade your daily focus using neuroplasticity. All right, part 1, the myth of laziness. Let's completely tear down the toxic illusion of hustle culture that tells you if you aren't waking up at 4 a.m. and crushing your goals, you just aren't driven enough. Society loves feeding us this clean, binary narrative, right? You're either driven or you're lazy. But that whole grind mindset completely crumbles when you look at the hard neuroscience. Science tells us the human mind operates on entirely different rules, namely energy conservation and risk aversion. Your brain consumes a massive 20% of your body's calories. Its primary goal is literally just to keep you alive until tomorrow while burning the absolute fewest calories possible. Moving to part 2. The corporate brain. Before we can fix the engine, we first need a map of the car, so we actually understand the biological hardware we're working with. Imagine your brain as a sprawling corporate office building. Up in the pristine top-floor corner office, you have the prefrontal cortex. This is your CEO. The CEO is rational, has a brilliant 5-year plan, and totally understands delayed gratification. But down in the dark basement, you have the amygdala. This is your risk management department. And it is primitive, it's lightning fast, and it's highly paranoid. It genuinely sees modern uncertainties like a difficult work task or a financial risk as literal, life-threatening predators. And the crazy part? Risk management does not care about the CEO's 5-year plan. When you get a stressful email, your amygdala pulls the fire alarm. This triggers an amygdala hijack. And this isn't some cute metaphor, it is a literal physiological event. Survival hormones flood your system and physically restrict blood flow to your prefrontal cortex. It forcefully redirects energy away from the CEO, making you biologically incapable of rational focus. Which brings us to part 3, the vicious cycle. Let's look at how these biological traffic jams build into the exact chain reaction that completely ruins an entire afternoon of work. It all happens in 4 totally predictable steps. First, you look at a massive goal, and the amygdala calculates potential failure and screams mortal threat. Step 2, your system just floods with expensive, uncomfortable anxiety. Step 3, because your brain literally hates experiencing this anxiety, it demands an escape hatch for quick dopamine relief. And that escape hatch? It's procrastination. Finally, step 4, your focus is entirely scrambled. Okay, part 4, step-by-step interventions. This is where it gets incredibly liberating, because now that we know exactly how the machine breaks down, we can use a step-by-step neuroplasticity guide to directly fix it. Our very first intervention attacks the root trigger, the amygdala's fear of failure. And the best tool for this is called fear setting. This literally means sitting down with a physical piece of paper and writing out the absolute catastrophic worst-case scenario of what happens if you fail. So why does this work so well? Well, when fear is just swirling around in your head, it lives in the formless, emotional limbic system, where it feels infinite and terrifying. But the physical act of writing, it requires language. You are physically dragging those electrical signals out of the emotional center and forcing them into Broca's and Wernicke's areas, your logical language centers. By assigning syntax and grammar to your anxiety, you're mathematically forcing the CEO to evaluate the risk, which instantly deactivates the amygdala's false alarm. Okay, but what if you've done that and you still feel paralyzed by the sheer size of the task? Like the brain is still screaming that the caloric cost is just way too high. Enter the 5-minute rule. You basically make a binding agreement with yourself. I am only going to work on this daunting task for exactly 5 minutes. By promising your brain you'll stop after 5 minutes, you drop the perceived activation energy to near zero. You're essentially sneaking right past the brain's security guards. And here's the magic trick. Once you open the document and type just one sentence, you get a tiny dopamine hit. That neurochemical momentum is usually enough to keep you going long past minute 6. Now, to protect that hard-won focus, you have to use a Pomodoro constraint to rebuild your attention filter, the reticular activating system. And the secret isn't just taking breaks, you absolutely must remove your phone from the room entirely. Neural imaging is wild on this. It shows that even having a phone face down on your desk causes a brain drain effect. Your brain is actively burning critical metabolic energy, just suppressing the urge to grab it. By physically hiding it in another room, you instantly free up that cognitive bandwidth for sustained attention.
Finally, Part 5, Proactive Upgrades. We're transitioning from reactive damage control into proactive, structural brain rewiring. This is where we wire your hardware for long-term success.
You can actually sculpt your gray matter every single day with 4 habits. First, vivid visualization. This physically thickens the myelin sheaths around your neural pathways, making a task feel familiar before you even begin. Second, habit stacking. Anchor a fragile new habit to a rock-solid basal ganglia routine, like doing your deep work right after pouring your morning coffee. Third, reframing. Turn a closed statement, like, I can't do this, into an open question, like, how can I do this? That forcibly boots up your CEO. And fourth, celebrating wins. Constantly acknowledging your progress manually triggers dopamine, which is the exact chemical fuel your engine needs to keep going. Now, if you ever find yourself spiraling into chronic overthinking while trying to implement these upgrades, you need to remember you have a toxic roommate in your head, the default mode network. This is a background network that generates all that anxiety and imposter syndrome whenever you're physically inactive. The mechanical cure? Just take a direct, immediate physical action. Seriously, even just standing up to wash a single dish forces the brain to shift blood flow to your task-positive network, and it instantly powers down the rumination. This quote perfectly distills our entire journey in this explainer. Your thoughts are tangible electrical impulses that are systematically sculpting the physical gray matter inside your skull. The massive takeaway here is that you are no longer the victim of your biology. You are the mechanic wielding the scalpel of neuroplasticity. But as we engineer ourselves into these perfectly frictionless machines of success, stacking our habits, hacking our dopamine, treating our laziness as a mere software glitch, it leaves us with this terrifyingly beautiful paradox to ponder. Does perfectly curing our procrastination also delete the chaotic daydreams that inspire our greatest art? If we silence that toxic roommate forever, do we lose the messy, wandering mind that makes us fundamentally human? Keep questioning your assumptions and keep rewiring your pathways.